OK, let's start with the story that's dominating the front pages. The British tourists caught up in Greece's biggest evacuation effort. So just have a look at these very dramatic front pages here, which show what's happening mainly on Rhodes. And it's all really a culmination of this terrible hot weather we've been seeing in parts of southern Eastern Europe. Run for your lives. These are British tourists having to make their way, ash falling on the hotels we gather. Often here's this father carrying his daughter. Obviously can't take a suitcase, left his stuff in the hotel, no doubt. A lot of people unable to take their belongings. They just had to move. Roads on fire, says the Metro, and the Express says hell on earth. And a lot of people unable to get transport, some having to actually go into the sea to wait for boats to pick them up. So you can see the fires in the background. So you're staying in a hotel and you've got this very, very red horizon. Those are wildfires. And you know, if you're there, they're coming your way. And obviously at a certain moment, everyone just realized when the smoke came and the ash came that they had to leave. And that didn't help because they all tried to leave at once. Let's just have a look at where exactly we're talking about here. So, blue spot is me in London, maybe you as well. Wildfires in Greece. We have to head 2,460 miles south-southeast, and we're in a very, very hot neighbourhood when we go this way. So if we just bring the map this way, here's Greece here, but of course Greece is bigger. Greece is all of this, isn't it? And it's below Turkey, and we know how hot Turkey is, and Rhodes is directly below. And this is the island we're talking about. So you can see particularly Lindos, particularly just west of here, is where the fires have been. And they're starting in this area here, and the smoke and the ash are being taken out to where the tourists are along the coast. There's a map, actually, the Sun printed, which I'll show you here. And they say wildfires raging, 30,000 evacuate. The airport's at the top of the island, which is mainly unaffected. Believe it or not, we're looking online. You can actually buy a ticket to Rhodes Airport to fly today. You could still do that. And here's where the fires are. In the middle of Rhodes, the island, Lindos, Pefki, Kalathos, Giatari, Lerma, all affected. My goodness, Gemma, it makes you think maybe we shouldn't even be going there.
Well, the world is changing, and unfortunately, these kind of scenes, these kinds of pictures, which if we'd seen these pictures 10 years ago, 20 years ago, I reckon perhaps a lot more would have been done a lot more quickly to try and prevent it. And this is the trouble with climate change. It's sort of been sneaking up on us, but it is here. It is here now. The temperature is that they had the hottest recorded June, I think, didn't they, in Europe or whatever it was. And it's frightening and also really interesting. You sort of see these people who've fled their hotels and they've got nothing but the shirt on their back. They've got no shelter. And there was an interview with a woman saying, the locals have been amazing. They've given us water. They've given us food. They helped us get into small boats. You know, this is what's happening.
Oh, small boats, right, OK.
Yeah, so as the world heats up and more places will eventually become inhospitable, the migration, we are going to be looking at so many more people displaced.
Mike, do you think we should say, look, we clearly shouldn't go on holiday to places which are hotspots, A, because we might have to be rescued, and B, because by flying we increase the climate change?
Well, we are going to fly for tens of thousands of years to come because it's the only way to get around the world. I think it's all a massive exaggeration. I really do. I mean, I know these wildfires are happening, but wildfires happen in Europe every summer. We haven't reached any record temperatures yet. They've never exceeded the figure in Sicily of 48.8. Celsius. That's never been exceeded.
When was that?
How hot do you think?
Within a degree of it.
That was 3 years ago. Death Valley in California, their record temperature, 56.7 in 1913, has never been exceeded. Now, this is all, I think, a huge exaggeration. I haven't read yet, fortunately, of one single person losing their life because of these wildfires. Because wildfires happen on the hills in the middle of the island. I haven't read of one building.
Would you have stayed in the hotel? Would you have stayed in the hotel?
It would depend where the hotel was. Because apart from the area where it's happening, all the other coastal resorts, people are just lying on the beach enjoying the sun. And this is one pocket of wildfire.
But this is like whether or not it's acceptable to do the thing Mike describes, you lie on the beach enjoying the sun when the rest of the island's on fire. Or is that essentially...
But why not?
Well, because that's what we're doing as a human race.
The wildfire's not threatening the lives of the other people.
Yes.
It's not, because
It's like that.
they're
It's
able
like
to
that
get away.
Supertramp album, "Crisis What Crisis." The guy's sitting under a parasol, and the whole scenery's on fire.
Look, I've just had a really gorgeous break in Dorset for 4 or 5 days last week.
Good thinking.
But we got an afternoon of sun, and I swam in the sea with my mouth closed
and
for
it was
obvious
probably
reasons.
and it was probably very expensive as well.
Yeah. So look, I have no problem with people wanting to go on their summer holiday. But what I am saying is I think that people will just make different choices, because actually, as the temperature creeps up, you say people haven't died. There have been so many excess deaths in relation to people having strokes and those kinds
That's been
of
going on
problems,
for
suffering
decades.
from the heat. No, you're going
Gemma,
against eminent scientists, Mike. I'm sorry, it's Mike
I'm
Harry
not.
versus eminent scientists.
I'll tell you, eminent
How hot
scientists.
does it have to get before people will wake up and do something about the future?
I'll tell you a statement from an eminent scientist. The State of Climate Report, Royal Meteorological Society, say that in the past 60 years, the temperature, particularly in Britain, has risen by 1 degree Celsius in 60 years. That's hardly
We're
any
looking
rise
at the
at all.
future, though. aren't we?
You can fish out any...
You can't predict the future, Jeremy. You know that.
Well, they've, if anything, they've underpredicted what's going on. Listen, let me just talk to a holidaymaker who's out there, Musrat Dar. And I'll just get up here to show you where Musrat is. We think it's... Are you Pethkos, are you, Musrat?
Yes, we are.
Whereabouts? Okay.
We were.
So, all right, tell us how you're doing.
Under circumstances, we're doing okay. I suppose the first thing I want to say is the local people have been amazing. They've really looked after us. We were in a local school in Apandu. The school children, the teachers have all pulled together, local community, to look after us. There were 600 tourists in this school yesterday, and some of the teachers have been awake for 48 hours looking after us. My heart goes out to the people of Rhodes right now. Their country is burning. There are villages being, evacuated, and they're losing their homes. They're losing their precious forests as well.
Is it? So where you were, I think I'm just pointing at the map. I don't know if you can see it. We think we were round about there. Did you have to move because you could feel the heat of the fire? Was the ash and the smoke coming over?
Yeah. So we noticed when we arrived plumes of smoke. Well, actually, not when we arrived. The day we arrived, it was fine, and then slowly we saw plumes of smoke. And I've flown with Jet 2, so we kept asking the rep in the hotel for information. We were told not to panic, and then 2 days later, the smoke was completely covering the skies. There was we had problems with seeing because it was getting to our eyes, catching the back of our throats. And again, I went and spoke to the Jet 2 reps, and I asked them, what is your evacuation plans? What's your disaster plan? And how do you plan to communicate? And again, just, we were fobbed off with, don't panic. And I did say, I'm not panicking, but, we need to know what, as passengers, how you plan to evacuate us. At that point, I knew that the fires were about 5 kilometers away. And they just said, we'll let you know. And so, we sat down that evening. It was very, very surreal. We sat in the taverna next to the hotel. There was music playing in the background, and in the far distance, there was black smoke and ash falling on us. So very, very surreal.
Understood.
And we know coaches of tourists arriving.
Thank you very much indeed, Musrat Dar, who has moved into that school just in between being at the hotel and being very close to the fire and going home. You feel that people are exaggerating the danger?
Look, what I'd say is every year in Europe you have forest fires. It's very unfortunate that lady is on holiday in, Rhodes, okay?
Yeah.
And it just happens to be in Rhodes at the moment. But I've got an official statistic here. European Forest Fire Information System says 2023 so far has been an average year. In worst years, we can have 500,000 acres burnt. This year, it's at 150,000.
Oh,
It's
for goodness
below
sake.
average.
The
So-
reason
so
that
below
fire
average.
spread like that is
Yeah.
because the temperatures had been so high.
Because it's a very dry
and it's
island.
very dry, and there has been wind as well. So, but I'm sorry, Mike, it's so frustrating. It's like, I feel so sorry for young people.
So do I.
No, people like you are not listening.
No, I am listening,
You're
and I'm not
not.
young, by the way.
But you do believe there's human-made climate change, correct?
Of course, there is
said it
climate
before.
change,
Yeah.
and climate change is
Made by
happening all
humans,
around
yeah.
us, but it's got to be taken into perspective. It's got to be taken over the centuries it's been happening. It just so happens that it's all gone up in Rhodes, which is a great pity.
You
But
know
for
a man-
most people on holiday in Europe, I'm sorry, they are not being affected by forest fires. They're enjoying their holidays in
hot.
Spain and Italy and sorry.
It's very hot.
It's
I tell you what,
hot.
let's pause. There's lots more to say here, but let's take some calls on whether it's time for us to say where there are heatwave hotspots, we shouldn't go on holiday in them. We have to get rescued, and we only add to the problem. 0207 862 2222. Ban holidays in heatwave hotspots. Give us a call.